So I'm back. Apparently, TikTok thought that I was promoting self harm, which I wasn't. I was talking about how not to self harm. That was the whole point. So I'm just back real quick. If you missed the first part of this live, it'll be on TikTok. I'll upload it. Thank God. And and then I just wanted to come back on just really quickly to let you know I'm back, and so forth. And so it'll be, so again, my YouTube channel, follow me there, is Sacred Intimacy Tarot. I'll go ahead and upload the live that was pulled down. It's been approved. It could have been the algorithm, it could have been somebody, I don't know, but anyway. So the key to your deliverance is to not allow the grief and the impotence of this timeline that we live in, that you're seeing with technology being a screen of horror. There's a lot of beautiful people that are sharing their beautiful lives, from hiking in the mountain with their cat to growing vegetables to showing us how to build a chicken coop to how to handle bees, right? Okay. But we are seeing the kind of horrors that wars create, wars and Geno. And somebody asked, where can you write the letter to The Hague? It's on my, if you go on my profile page, it's there. You'll see a man through, it literally says 144,000, a call to the 144,000. For a more detailed information, I would ask you to go on YouTube. And there, again, you'll see that same man, his head thrown back, a call to the 144,000 to The Hague. There are two template letters, one that Andromeda Flame wrote, one that I just put through ChatGPT. Change some words, add a sentence, make it yourself. And there is a form. So there's the emails, and then there's a link to a, what is it? How do I put this? It's a form where you go on, and there's a form, okay? Now, what I did is I sent them the video of somebody who had created a video on the oxycodone in the flour, which has been verified by physicians all over the world. It's been it's not a myth. It's not a myth. It's actually what they did. Okay, so what I did is I downloaded, and feel free to do that. Download someone's video on something. I don't care if it's from Telegram or whatever, and then demand arrests. And in that 21-minute, 21-second video, you'll see it. He looks like Jesus. He's got his head thrown back, and the behind him is kind of a reddish sky. In that video, in that live that I did, I talk about the Nuremberg trials, and I talk about how incredible, with no technology, no fucking satellites, they were able to find damn near every person that was part of the Holocaust. And they did it in multiple stages. I think it took like 20 or 25 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. We have not seen one arrest. So if you're interested, one of you asked, my Jennifer just told me, one of you was asking, because I actually don't look at the screen when I'm talking, because when I'm talking, I'm downloading. So I don't look at screens because I don't want to get thrown off my my mojo, to be honest. Usually I look at the screen after. Okay, so if you're interested in doing your part in writing, the template is right there. The templates are there, but you probably are better off going to my YouTube channel and getting the information there. I will upload this video. You'll see, I'll probably try to do a part 1 and part 2, but the information is there for you to do it. It's going to take you all of 5 minutes, especially if you just copy and paste and you don't even download a video. You're just demanding arrests, because we've got these MFers. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be around serial. You know what? I don't want to sit with them. I don't want to be on an airplane with them. Right? Would you want to sit next to Dahmer? Would you like to be next to Ted Bundy at a cafe? I don't think so, right? Especially if you know what they've done, right? So I wouldn't want to bump into Daniel Weiss at an airport. Let's put it that way. It's the last thing I want to do. So what I'm going to say to you is that though we are spiritual, multidimensional like beings, and though we are deconstructing the dogmatic brainwashing we have suffered for thousands of years, for at least 3,000 years. We can still do a couple 3D acts of justice and mercy for people we will never meet. Okay? For souls that have been massively harmed. Where people all over the world, people like you and me, can agree that this is very, very unhinged. This is something you can do. And in a way, that's your way of giving back, of saying, I give a shit, okay? I give a shit. I may never see you. I may never meet you. I don't know what you're going through. I can't even step into your shoes because the horror of doing that would probably put you into a clinical depression, right? I'm not joking. For some of you are very, very gentle. And I'm not going to say fragile in a put down. I mean, some of your nervous systems are fragile. And they're fragile because you are in the midst of emerging like a moth, a butterfly from its chrysalis. And so there's a fragility to you, and it's not a weakness. It's a fragility in between the dark and the night. You are at the dawning of your full metamorphosis, of your power. And so for you, even if you take the 5 minutes to do that, you can launch it, send it, and forget. I'm not kidding. Forget about it. Forget about it. Just go on with your life in your spiritual journey to be a co-creator of New Earth. Every single with your life in your spiritual journey to be a co-creator of New Earth. Every single sentient being that gives a shit about other sentient beings and this planet is got to understand that you are one of the co-architects of the New Earth. No one is handing us the keys. No one is doing the work for us. No one. We each are walking towards that path, and we each have to claim it. And we each need to not listen to those cynical, brutish, barbaric minds who laugh at us and scoff at us for what we are bringing. That planet is not for them. Do you remember the scene? I keep repeating myself, and I apologize for that. But remember the scene in The Matrix where he says, "I don't care if it's not a steak. I don't care if it's not a steak. I want to be rich and famous. I want to forget all about this. I don't want to know this." I've also talked about Plato's parable of the cave. I've talked about, there are certain people who really don't want to know. You understand? You're not here to convince them that the moon rises when the night comes and that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You are not here to teach them that the moon controls the ocean. You're not here to teach them a fucking thing. You're not here to convince them. This is not. They want the Mad Max planet. They want Gattaca. They want this great movie, Gattaca, by the way. They want the Brave New World. Let them have it. There are people right now living in 5D as we live here in 3D. But the difference between us, the 2D, 3D minds, and us who are actually skating in between dimensions and frequencies. What do I mean? Well, we are in the 3D world because here I am. My arms and elbows are on this table, 3D. But my mind and my visions are 4D, 5D. My consciousness is raising out of the damage that has been done to me and people like me throughout our incarnations when we were foot soldiers, farmers, midwives, burned at the stakes, when we were told that what we believed in was evil, when we were controlled by various religions, when we were told when we incarnated as women that we were shit, when we were men and we were enslaved. My point is, we are doing thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of incarnations where we were dogmatically chained to belief systems that literally lobotomized our powers, and we are doing it in one lifetime. It's a fucking heavy job. Like, I'm not joking. Like, this is hard shit. Can you imagine? You're not just dealing with your immediate lineage of being Swedish or African or Chinese or Irish. You're dealing with every incarnation, every desire, every gender, you were gay, you were straight, you were bisexual, you were in polyamorous situations in ancient societies. And you are rising out of all of these incarnations, and you are finding truest nature of who you are as a sentient being, as a multidimensional light. And you're choosing to remember not to subjugate others, but to free others. And so this is massive work. This is not something you just, this is fucking the excavations of lifetimes is going on in your particular incarnation. You right now, reading the books you're reading, listening to the people you're listening to, going into your own musings and journalings and walking in the woods and the beach and trying to figure shit out and coming to massive aha moments and sometimes forgetting them and sometimes recording them so you don't forget. And sometimes it being so deeply seated in your cellular system, in your soul's archival wisdom. It's extraordinary what we're going through. The planet has never seen us like this before. Not like this. Because you see, now we're no longer naive. I'm going to call it part 1 of this live, right? In part 1, I talked about the fact that Atlantis fell because we were naive. We actually believed in the goodness of everyone. Some of the problems in the New Age community, and I love Michael Newton, don't get me wrong, but he actually feels as if there's no evil in high dimensions. Well, clearly that's a lie, because if you go into other dimensions, in 5D, 6D, 7D, we have draconians, we have other sentient beings that are clearly evil. Do they wake up? Yes, they do. I've seen it in my Akashic readings. They do wake up. Because the light is so intoxicating. The nectar of the light is so fulfilling, so satiating, so beautiful that it cracks the rock that some people call a heart open, and all the light shines in and out. People have literally changed. People have changed. We're actually seeing people literally transform before our eyes. We have made decisions about people that you may not like at all 10 years ago. And you're going, I never thought I would agree with fill in the blank in my bingo card. I'm seeing comments like that all across the internet. I never thought I would sit here and agree with ... I never saw that coming. Because when people who have a level of intelligence get information, they change their minds with more clarity, based on more clarity, more, because at the end of the day, they also are coming out of the dogmatic training that they were enslaved in. So they're changing their mind. You're seeing people literally come out going, and you're sitting there going, what the fuck? I never thought I'd hear her or him say that. So people change, people evolve, people transform. You have to understand that people have to literally rise out of the mud and guck and quagmire of dogma and crawl out of it on their hands and knees with dirt and cement in their nostrils, in their throat, rubbing the fucking crud out of their eyes. And then finally, they go through the dark night of the soul, realizing that everything they thought was real was a lie. Do you imagine? Some people don't come out of it very well. Some people, it takes years for them to come out of the dark night of the soul. It's not a twin flame thing to come out of the dark night of the soul. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just reality hitting you, and you're really realizing that the limitation of what reality really is a horror. A horror. And we have been spoon-fed the truth for decades through social media, through movies, books. There is, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again because for some of you, you may not have heard that, but there is a spiritual law that before you fuck people over, you got to tell them you're about to fuck them over. And so that's why we have movies like The Fountain. This is why we have movies like Gattaca, The Matrix. It's a spiritual law. That's why we have the movies like Eyes Wide Shut. It's a law. David Icke talks about it. And David Icke is not someone who I believe in everything he says. I don't fucking agree with, but I'll give him credit because he was one of the ones who spoke very unpopular beliefs. In fact, insane shit, okay, that woke a lot of people. woke a lot of people up on the planet. And again, there's an old black saying, and it's eat the fish and throw away the bones, meaning take what is resonating with you and throw away the rest. We cannot put each other on pedestals as teachers, as mentors, as leaders. We cannot. We are going to change. We're going to evolve. Sometimes I will say things you disagree with, but I've said some wise things and I know it already. I don't need you to tell me. I know it. Just like I know a lot of these people that are massively influential on the planet have said amazing, beautiful truths. And then some of the shit I'm like, no, hell no. And there's some people that are really on the wrong fucking track of ascension, period. They evolved, they got scared, and they went back. Some people literally regress. I'm not joking. A good example, in my humble opinion, and I say this humble, okay, humble, that doesn't mean I'm right, is Doreen Virtue. Doreen Virtue was writing about the indigo children. She was writing about the crystal children, the rainbow children. She was doing decks of cards on angel this, angel that. She could find, and then she went back to Jesus. And I don't mean Yeshua, I mean Jesus. The dogmatic Jesus, the Jesus that and I guess the Old Testament of where we fear God. So, so yeah, people will regret. You'll see people literally fucking hijack back to the hills of what they know, back into the cave of ignorance. You will see that. And you'll wonder, well, maybe I'm in the wrong direction. Maybe I'm walking towards the wrong direction. Well, no. Are you? Are you walking towards the wrong direction if things are always making your heart pump with joy? Is it your monkey mind asking that question, or is it your soul asking that question? You constantly have to check yourself. You constantly have to literally pinch yourself and go, am I truly in my highest consciousness in this decision? If I'm afraid, am I afraid because I will lose my ability to continue my incarnation, or am I afraid because I'm afraid of change? Am I afraid of getting my mind blown in another consciousness? Why am I afraid? And this is a personal answer. I can't answer that for you. No one can answer that for you. They might be able to excavate with you, meaning walking along beside you, having a conversation to listen more questions within yourself to give you clarity. I could see that. But just like no one can actually, I was telling a friend of mine yesterday when I was working on my mother's chakras, there's this big thing of, oh my God, my chakras were healed by this person. And I said, very few people on the planet can do it. And I was telling her how I was working on my mom's chakras, and I'm not going to get into it today. But I said the reason why I could actually work on her chakras is because I was in her womb. Her womb. The reason I can work on the chakras of my child is because she was in my womb. And there's a soul bond to that as well. But I would never go to a healer and have them work on my chakras. However, I would go to a Reiki master who hopefully I could feel something. Because if you don't feel shit, nothing's happening. I'm telling you that right now. Trust me, I'm a Reiki master. You can fucking feel it when somebody works on you. And they're not, it's as you know, it's touchless healing. You can feel the energy. I remember having a friend, I had a massive fucking, the kind of migraine that you're cross-eyed, you got to lay down. We were at a bagel shop, standing in line for bagels and a coffee, and all she did was put her hand in the back of my neck and went to my third eye, and I was fucking within less than 3 minutes, I was blissed out. She was not trained in chi energy in this incarnation, but she was in past lives. And so she had brought all this knowledge with her in this incarnation. But just putting a sign up saying healer doesn't mean you're a healer. Be honest with yourself, because if you're feeding your ego because you got a certificate of completion, now you're suddenly a shaman. That's bullshit. I love that. People are literally going to, if you're a shaman, you'll know it. If you're a shaman, you'll actually fucking remember shit. And you won't know why, but you'll know exactly what to do, exactly what to say, exactly how to guide others. Because you have been a shaman in many incarnations, from being a Native American indigenous person to being, a druid or druidess. And so you'll know what to do. You don't need to be trained. You don't need somebody to give you a little certificate to put on your wall. I am now a shaman. Who the fuck does that? Shamans can and will take an apprentice or two, But if you're actually going to go to a class and take a class for like 3 weeks and then suddenly now you're a shaman, this isn't hypnotherapy. This is something much, way, way deeper. Hypnotherapy is technique. Shaman is something very, very esoteric. It's very spiritual. It comes from something beyond this realm. It's not like saying I'm a psychologist and I have a PhD. Let's not compare the two. It's not the same. There's a great writer who was told she was a liar, who wrote, her name was Lynn Andrews, and she passed away. She had some retreats in Joshua Tree. I physically met her when she came out with her book Shakai Woman, which was about her future incarnation. And she was the real deal. What do I know that? Well, because when I looked into her eyes, I saw opalescent eyes. Have you ever seen opals? How they shimmer and glimmer and change light and color? Yeah, that was her eyes. She was a very deep, deep, intense woman who wrote about, in one of her best-selling books was actually called Jaguar Woman, a great book. And she did go up to, I forgot, I think it was somewhere in Canada, where she studied with two, one of them was called Whistling Elk. She went and studied with two women. She didn't get a certificate of completion. One of them was called Whistling Elk. She went and studied with two women. She didn't get a certificate of completion. She worked with two indigenous women in Canada. I'm sure she donated money or whatever, but let's just put it that way. She didn't come away with a fucking certificate of completion. You're going to have more confidence than that in your own powers. If you want to be a shaman, it's probably because you were. If you want to be a horse whisperer, it's because you probably have worked with horses in many incarnations. If you want to actually teach about esoteric concepts of self-healing, if you're a medical intuitive, it's because you've done it before. If you can, many, many children right now are being born and have been born for the last 25 years and beyond, because Lynn Andrews was one who talked about how at the age of 3, she could see people's auric field, the color, everything. And I remember when she met me, I think I was 32. Yeah, I was 31 and 32, around 31, 32 years old. I remember her staring at me hard, which made me uncomfortable, to be honest. And I remember people standing in line to get her book signed. I had bought her book. It took I used to make like minimum wage, and I took everything I got to buy that book, money-wise, that is. And they were all jostling to stand in line, calling themselves spiritualists, and yet literally elbowing themselves to get first in line. I waited. I was the last one in her line. I waited. Kind of like how you wait at the back of the fucking airplane, letting everyone leave because you're not going to fucking fight this. You're going to wait. And I remember her just signing my book and staring long and hard. God knows what she saw. I don't know. I'm not even going to discuss what she saw because I can't fathom it. But I do know that her books changed my life. She was the feminine Carlos Castaneda, who also was called a liar. Why? Because people don't want to believe that when you write, you go into a meditative state of consciousness and suddenly you remember things that you would have never thought you could remember. Writing is a meditation. Writing, you're literally, especially if you're listening to high frequency music or whatever you're listening to, puts you into an altered state of consciousness where suddenly the recall is fluid and without fault. For example. So where am I going with this? I'm actually shooting all kinds of information at you for you to kind of like have more confidence in who you are. I remember when I'll never forget this actually. It was January 31st. It was on a Wednesday. And I decided that it was time to do womb healing circles. Out of nowhere. About 6 months later, I saw that 3 women across the world had decided on that same day to do womb healing circles. You could laugh at me and go, well, who gives a fuck? I mean, somebody's going to. And I thought, no, that was different. That was different. Because I would have never found out about them. But on that day, we all launched our first womb healing circle. And I wrote a manual for all of my, gatherings. It was a manual. Every Thursday, they got a whole chapter of what the class was going to entail, what we were going to talk about, and there were questions for them to answer. Very, very pedestrian, seemingly pedestrian questions And that would I elicited like 2-3 hour conversations in our sacred circles, because there were questions about the somatic body, genitalia. What did your parents call that? What do you see it as? Well, and why did I ask those questions? Well, because way back when, about 20 years ago, I'd seen a documentary on women looking at their yonis in a mirror and crying and saying, "I hate it, it's so ugly." I never thought of that. Self-hate is so interesting. Self-shame is so interesting because it evolves from different sectors of one's mind and what people think is normal. So I remember watching this young woman, and what they were doing is giving mirrors to these women and having them look at their genitals, and they were literally screaming at the mirror, going, "You're so fucking ugly. You're so." I mean, it blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I didn't know women held such hate. So of course, the next thing I did was to realize that we needed yoni eggs, and so we went with the carnelian. Of course, at the time I had a really good purveyor who, it was a gem quality. It wasn't coated with bullshit. It was just pure crystal eggs that had been just polished, so there would be no grit, and that was it. And we started working with those eggs, and then I got the obsidian to and I would wear the obsidian to literally magnify their carnelian root chakra, right? And we would always wear our eggs for our circles, swear to God, if nothing else, just for that. And the kind of healing that we were able to co-create was insane. And I feel as if when we're called to do certain work, what most people do is they second guess, and they will gaslight themselves and go, "Well, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. I'm not fully healed." I was going through massive shit when I was doing it. Massive shit. All kinds of, and it's none of your business what I was going through, because that's not the point. The point is to say, don't put me on a pedestal. But I knew what the fuck I was doing. And I knew what I was writing. And I knew that these women were healing, because women who had been celibate to themselves, you understand, they weren't pleasuring themselves for 7-10 years, had been in celibate marriages, celibate situations, were suddenly pleasuring themselves and healing because of these circles. Because we were all co-creating a sacred space. And in that is always a rotten apple. What I've noticed in damn near all situation, there will be a rotten apple. And the rotten apple is you giving yourself boundaries and saying, do I accept this bullshit or do I call it out? And being me, I called it out. And I was correct. I've never regretted that. And it was better for me to call out bullshit than to allow it to fester in the group. And this is something that you will learn as you start creating your own groups, your own communities, that there are people that are vulnerable, and they don't mean to step in dog shit or your toes or whatever. They don't mean it. And that you approach that with a different mercy and generosity. But some people are full of shit. And at that point, you put foot to ass. You will be respected for it, because they will see the justice in your actions. And also, it's a lesson of integrity. It's a lesson in integrity. And as we go into 5D New Earth, this is where I'm going to. You will learn that it will not mean that we've forgotten everything. We will be the first generation walking through the portals of 5D, dragging a lot of the samskars of this incarnation and past incarnation. And as the generations progresses, the second generation, the third generation, the fifth, the dilution of the dogmatic teachings will be gone. They will be gone. And so they will be a much more enlightened society. But it'll take probably 2 or 3 generations. Maybe not even 3, just 2. And part of that is going to be to literally address things with integrity, justice in mind, and in some cases, it's appropriate mercy. People are people. We're going to deal with stuff. We're going to deal with jealousy. We're going to deal with wanting more, and literally, explaining to the person in these new communities, listen, you want more for what? What do you want more for? Before, when you look at the Polynesian societies, for example, and other societies where, for example, it's a good example actually, where polyamory and incest, and all kinds of shit like that was going on. And there was no shame, none at all. There was absolute naivete and innocence in all of that. There was no cruelty in that. There was no, it was weird. It was like very, very naive, childlike connection with sexuality, intimacy, and so forth, and generosity. And so the reason why we've improved as a people is because now, like I said, we are matured as spirit soul beings. We're matured. We're more mature than we were in our last incarnation as a starseed. There's a maturity. There's what I call a street-wise starseed power that we've never had before. And this will become much more evident as you grow into this incarnation, as you expand into this incarnation, as you drop your body eventually and you look back at what you left behind, you know what I mean? Of what you were, whatever your name was, Daniel, Lisa, Jenny, whatever. It's going to be interesting because you're going to look at this going, wow, there were still parts of me that believed that this was my personality. Again, The Power Now, great book by Eckhart Tolle, who talks about the me and the I. And The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, who talks about who are you? The questions of who are we? It's one of the things I discussed with a client about Heath Ledger, who plays a Joker, right? We were all playing roles, but in the Joker, he got lost in the role because it became him. Method acting can be dangerous when you're an innocent, beautiful soul like Heath Ledger. Look at all his movies. If you did a list of all his movies, you'll see he was making very progressive movies about very uncomfortable subjects. Okay, like Brokeback Mountain. You should see one of the interviews when they're asking him about, well, how do you feel about being with a guy? Well, I don't know. Love is love, my friend. Love is love. It's a love story about two men who love each other. What's the difference between that and a man and a woman loving? I mean, he was only 25 or 26, okay, when he was answering it. But the point is, he was surrounded by assholes. And I'm just going to be straight up with you on that. He was surrounded by assholes. He was addicted to shit, both legal and illegal. And he was doing a role. And he was all in. You could say almost an attachment latched onto him because his portals were open because he was taking illegal and legal shit on top of that. And he was surrounded by assholes. Not one person knew how to fucking get him out of that cave. The Hall of Mirrors. Let's put it that way. Have you ever seen that movie, Enter the Dragon, with Bruce Lee walking in and all these mirrors? Do you remember that movie? That's a hell of a scene. And so imagine being in a hall of mirrors, being completely fucking hyped up, paranoid, scared, realizing that you are the Joker. How the fuck do I come back to who I am? And similarly, we play these roles, right? I'm playing the role as a woman, and I'm of a certain age, and I've had all these experiences, but it's not all of who I am. I'm much more than this. To say that this is it is to limit the capacity that is infinite in the very nature of the fractal truth of God. And that's something that I think many of us need to really realize. So it's great to say, I'm 100% Irish. I'm so proud of I'm all American. And it's great for a minute, but don't fucking actually go down the rabbit hole and believing. I mean, don't drink the Kool-Aid or that fucking, like, that's your reality. You're limiting yourself. So in this incarnation, you're gay. You love men. Wonderful. But in past incarnations, you made love to a woman very well. In past incarnations, you were a woman who had problems with men. In another incarnation, you were bisexual. And so it goes all the way down the line. And so we have to be careful in assigning ourselves limited views of who we are in these particular incarnations. It is a dangerous slippery slope. That's why incarnation and believing in incarnation is probably the most important person someone can master. Because after that, everything else is bullshit. After that, your relationship with God is personal. God is no longer an inanimate issue told to you by a priest, a pastor, or this or that, whatever. It's literally a direct connection that you have. You don't have to go to church. You walk into the woods. You don't have to be in a pew. You sit in the sand of a beach. You listen to God's voice through the ocean, through the wind, through the trees. You don't need anyone to tell you anything. And you sit around other people, and they're all sharing their stories. And in their stories, you see fractals of God in action. And this is something we have to get to as a people. We have to get to that place, because as long as we keep limiting ourselves as to our view of ourselves through the mirror, and the mirror tells us one really small reality of who we are, small. So out of 100%, I'd say it's 1/100th of who we truly are. That's the mind-blowing truth. And so when you start remembering your past lives and you've done some fuckery, and somebody, like, you'll have a really nice past life, and then you'll remember another one, and then you might actually remember another one, and suddenly here comes one that's just, you fucking totally tears you down. You're an absolute piece of shit. Maybe you're Attila the Hun. You're Genghis Khan. You're Alexander the Great. Or someone less known, but just as potently dangerous and so forth, and evil, right? Or whatever. And you realize, oh my God, how could I have done this? And the question isn't, how could I have done this? The question is, would I do this now? And the most important answer should be, oh, hell no, I would never do this. Never again. Okay, good. Then you're fine. Then you now release the bondages of the samskaras of that particular incarnation or incarnations thereof, and you step into power, knowing that you will never abuse power ever again. Because now your soul has evolved to the light, and all you want is to give joy, abundance, generous justice to all sentient beings on this planet, on other planets, across the realms. That is the most important thing to do, because many of you, your root chakra is fucked, your throat chakra is blocked, you don't think you're ready, you don't think you have anything to say, and practice makes perfect. If you keep yourself muzzled, if you have a muzzle around your throat chakra, if you actually don't believe in your ability to heal yourself, your trauma, letting go of all those experiences, or transmuting them to become wonderful launch pads to you being able to heal other people, saying, look, I've been there. I've been there. I had an alcoholic mother or father. I was essayed. Whatever the hell it was, I was abused. I was the scapegoat child. I was the golden child. Shit, I was both. I was the parent of my children. I raised myself. These are not something to bemoan. These are something to celebrate, because now you can actually sit with a group of people and go, brother or sister, I've been there. And mean it, because you actually have walked that path. People who were born with a silver spoon, a golden spoon, a platinum spoon, they cannot ever teach you anything on that level. Why? Because they have not experienced it, unless they were like the prince that became the pauper. In other words, walked among the plebs, the peasantry, the working class, who actually made an effort to work. And I don't mean for a day, I mean for months, to really understand what it is to not have money or to barely make it happen. To be fearful of the electricity or the cell phone bill being cut off. To be fearful of being ill because there's no fucking net if you're ill. To constantly look over your shoulder. To always feel as if you have a sword over your head. Those make the best teachers on the planet, because they have walked the walk. And they've come out of it manifesting the most impossible fucking magic out of that kind of beginnings. And so when you ask yourself, why am I going through what I'm going through? Ask yourself, what have I learned? How can I teach this to others? How do I manifest myself out of this situation? And so you learn from the best. You learn from the best. You practice until you actually become a master. And believe me, I'm still in training. By no means have I mastered manifestation, but I know the keys, and I know how the monkey mind produces the problems that cloud your ability to manifest. This is why I'm telling you what I'm telling you. Many of the problems that we have on this planet will be cured. I'm not kidding. When we're in 5D. Your electric bill will not be. Nikola Tesla wanted that energy free. Free for all. There are people who have actually found ways to put water into cars and making it run. You know what I'm talking about. So 5D is not a profit for. 5D is everyone has the abundance they want, because what you want, I don't want. I don't want your Birkin bag. I want a fucking shaman drum. I don't want that shaman drum. I want another. You want another too. You know what I'm saying? We're not competing for we're not competing on products. Energy is free. Water is clean. When bees thrive and stop dying, we'll know we're in 5D. When the ecosystem rebalances, we're in 5D. Watch the movie Fungi, the documentary Fungi. It's on, I think it's on Amazon, unfortunately, but look for it. And it talks about how easy it is to use fungi to heal water sources that have been contaminated. If they wanted to, they would. So this is what we're manifesting. We're being asked to manifest something beyond our local troubles. Go ahead and work on manifesting yourself out of your local troubles, your problem, but also add to that component 5D. In other words, so 3 minutes, you're meditating on having a better job, having your own business, living it where you want to live, doing what you want, and boom, the last 2 minutes, it's all 5D. How that looks, how that feels, how does it feel? You're doing a service for yourself, because most of the shit we're dealing with is a 3D system that has been really well engineered to keep us at this level of lack energy. And that's what you need to manifest and master as much as you can. So let me see what you guys are saying. And I apologize for not looking down, but I can't, or else it throws me off the track. Let me see here. Okay, so let me see here. I scrolled up too hard. I want to read your comment. Why would a spiritual awakening cause something to completely take over the human? Why would a spiritual awakening cause something to completely take over the human? What do you mean by take over the human? The human? You don't want to be awakened? You don't want to be completely in your full power? I don't know what to say. Why would that be a problem? Unseen takes over a human completely, motor skills, thought, speech. There's two, okay. Let me repeat it so you guys hear it. Unseen, so I'm sure he's talking about unseen forces, takes over a human completely, motor skills, thoughts, and speech. No, it doesn't. If it's of the light. If it's a entity that has taken you, there is such a thing as, it's a real thing, okay? I'm sorry if that probably offends you, but it's a real thing. If something takes over you, it is not from the light. And at that point, you need to do some other work. Okay, maybe more than one unseen were placed in a body, not by choice. Well, exactly. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to move on because I answered that question. It's our disease of needing a piece of paper to prove you can do something. I'm pro now. Yeah, I know that spiritual bypassing is also a thing. We're seeing a lot of spiritual bypassing. I was drawn to her myself and her books and didn't know she passed. Oh, yes, Lynn Andrews passed. Yeah, it was a shock to me because I wanted to meet her once again, but Lynn Andrews passed. I'm going to move on from the Kenneth question. It looks like Jennifer's handling it. Let me see. Right, we all hope that souls like Ivan the Terrible will never come back, but love is how the veil rules. It's so bittersweet to have this beautiful life with all its sorrows, knowing we must raise our soul. Well, we've been lucky. Do you think manifesting is just looking into the future? That's a very good question. Manifesting, so here's the question that I find interesting. Do you think manifesting is just looking to the future? No. Well, yes and no. So let me explain what I mean. Manifesting is being a frequency match to the multiple possibilities that are already in the Akashic records for you personally. So if it is in your cards and you already had a soul contract to go and live in and buy a house in Portugal with 20 acres, and the other one is to stay in say Switzerland in a one studio apartment, and then there's another part of you that could be, say, in a tiny little like hovel in Hong Kong, and then there's a fourth where you could be in the favelas of Brazil, broke, okay? And what you're doing as you manifest the house in Portugal, you're manifesting and becoming a frequency match to that particular choice. You have 4 different choices. I'm limiting it, but you have 4 different choices, and what you concentrate on becomes your reality. So if you are in despair and you think you need to be in the favelas and you'll never come out of it and you're broke, that will be your reality. If you feel as if, I do feel as if I deserve to have a beautiful house in Portugal with 20 plus acres, then that will become your reality. And in between all of that is the monkey mind kicking the shit out of you, telling you that you're a loser. So that's basically the problem with that. Hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense? So it's a yes and no question, because actually it isn't just seeing the future. There are multiple paths to the future. You know what I mean? There are like 5 or 4, in this case, I illustrated 4 crossroad moments, and you decide which crossroad your soul is more aligned to. And so your reality becomes, I'm in Portugal. I own this beautiful little mansion, this hacienda with the red tile roof, and I'm so happy. I got 20 acres. I've got great, and I bought it from an old woman who had no relatives. And I was able to buy it for she just wanted, to get rid of it. And here I am. I'm blessed. You manifested the frequency match to that reality. And what we struggle with when we manifest is our fear that what we desire is insane, our fear that we're not ready, and our fear that we're in Delulu land. You know what I mean? All right. And usually what you desire is a frequency match, if that makes sense. In other words, so if you feel like suddenly you get a hit, I'm going to be a shaman, and people look at you, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'll tell you when that is inappropriate. I'm going to tell you straight up. You go and do Pachamama, you're with a shaman, and you come out of your journey, right? Your plant journey, and you come out saying, I've been told that I'm going to be a shaman now. Yeah, sit back down, okay? Because that's probably not reality. Reality is when it haunts you. Just like wanting to meet a shaman, and it takes you 10 years to find the shaman you're supposed to meet. Or wanting to do plant and med, and it takes you 30 years to finally do it. You have a virgin brain. It's never fucked with anything, or it's fucked with all kinds of shit. But now you've cleaned your act, and you are driven, howling, and you're not sure if you're going to go to Peru, Brazil, somewhere in Europe, somewhere in Africa. You're not sure, right? But you are like absolutely obsessed with doing it. Well, it's because you're being guided. The medicine is calling you to it. But it's not something you force because everyone else is doing it. And this is what we're seeing actually in the spiritual community, the toxic face of spiritual community. We're watching guys like Aubrey Marcus and Will Smith and doing too much fucking replay. That's what I call it, replay, and just they can't afford it just because they can afford it, right? And they can, right? Doesn't mean that you keep doing it. And there's an arrogance, and there are shamans who are charlatans. As long as you come in with the money, they will fucking let you take it again and again. And a true shaman would say, stop right now. You've done enough. No, call me in a year. We'll talk again in a year. No, I'm not taking your call anymore. That's a true shaman. True shamans are not going to, you know why? Let me tell you why. Because a true shaman knows that they will be karmically entangled with you if they allow you to keep taking too much of the play. Meaning plant. They know that's wrong. A real shaman. And I'm calling a lot of you shamans out. You guys are charlatans. And you know who you are. You know exactly who the fuck you are. You will take their money until there's no more money. It's no different than a psychic selling you $1,000 candles to get rid of the entities attached to your family curse. It's such bullshit, but they're out there. And they don't realize that's a karmic entanglement. Can you imagine doing that to 1,000 people, 10,000 people? Sure, you're sitting on $500,000 a year, okay? Or more, actually. I'm lowballing it. But imagine the karmic entanglement. So when some of us do what we do, and we reject and we say, no, you're not ready for me or whatever, it's not an insult. It's not, oh, you're not ready because you're below me. It's, I don't want to be karmically entangled with your shit. And you're not ready for what I'm going to bring you. There's some clients or potential clients where I've actually said, you're not ready. I've talked about it before. This is why I do a pre-call. I don't just do readings like whatever. I don't do Akashic. I'm not a Pez dispenser. I'm not a fucking egg layer. I'm not on the milk machine. I have to make sure that if I take a client on, that I add value to them, and I'm not taking on a client that is psychotic, Delulu, wants the fucking Barbie and Ken story. You know, I want to make sure that I'm going to be in alignment with them as well, because or else it's a karmic entanglement. Similarly, this is what shamans should understand. You don't let someone take, the great Pachamama and taking cups once a month or once every 3 months. It's insane. That's insane. It's wrong. And we will always have, it doesn't matter what religious practices, what spiritual practice, unfortunately, for now, we will always have fucked up shamans and spiritual leaders. And this is what we're seeing. We're seeing people who are in their egos. Billy Carson, when he got, what was the guy's name? Wes something. I forgot his name. Bible scholar. Like, I'm supposed to fucking bow to that. Holy shit, you just told me why I shouldn't believe anything you have to say. But anyway, moving on. When Billy Carson let his ego get hijacked, when, I don't know if you guys know what happened, but if you don't, Billy Carson was basically quoting Barnabas. I forgot actually the details, to be honest with you, but this scholar wasn't even supposed to be there. It was supposed to be a basic chat, and supposedly Billy Carson had COVID, and he got his ass kicked because he wasn't prepared. Instead of stepping away from the table, sometimes, it's kind of like somebody hijacking you. Let's say, I'm going to give you an example. So you've got a best friend, and you fell out with another friend who betrayed you. And your friend decides it's a good idea not to tell you that she's invited or he has invited that frenemy into the dinner that she's organized. So you walk into the room and you've got a bottle of wine and some flowers, and then you see this frenemy and you're like, you didn't even tell me they'd be there. You don't sit at the table. You leave the flowers and the bottle of wine and you tell them, sayonara, goodbye, enjoy the meal. But you're not going to hijack me like that. If I want to talk to them, I'm a grown-ass person. I'll do it myself. So when Billy Carson went through what he went through, the problem is that his ego was involved, and he doubled down. And so now, don't get me wrong, Billy Carson has done a lot. He's done a lot of good, a lot more good than that. That was just a moment in time. It was just he stepped on dog shit. And I'm not saying it to bring up that bad memory, that bad taste in the mouth, but I certainly wouldn't stop listening. Like, I still think his Emerald Tablet and the way he's formatted is still the best version of that. And then a lot of people are saying that the Emerald Tablet is fake, that it's completely made up. But if you read, and I did actually read the Emerald Tablet, his version, by the way, on my YouTube channel, you can check it out, Emerald Tablet Part 1 and Part 2, and sometimes I'm crying. When shit's fake, it doesn't make you emotionally involved. When things are real, you're emotionally struck. You're shook. And it says that many people cannot access the Emerald Tablet because the halls of Amenti are below the pyramids, right, of Giza. Well, what did they find under the pyramids of Giza, which, by the way, was on the news and then gone, like no one else is talking about it. And I think many of you know, but there's a whole fucking complex structure underneath the pyramids of Giza. Complex. A whole system that goes, I don't know, maybe hundreds and hundreds of feet, maybe 1,000 feet, I don't know. But it was found through some kind of technology that can actually X-ray the bottom of a structure, something like that. And what they found, we can't ever again think that the pyramids of Giza were built by human beings. You can't even put a fucking credit card in between the slabs of stone, number one. Number two, we can't replicate the pyramids of Giza. I've seen documentaries on them trying and they can't. They cannot. And these are thousands of years old. And so what it shows me is that this was an extraterrestrial. And I've done a hypnotherapy session, and she knows who she is out there. She was an Andromedan while they were building the pyramids. That's hypnotherapy. That wasn't even me doing an Akashic. This was actually her recall, this particular client's recall. So, okay. We don't know. Half the shit we know was people are really going on the Tartarian civilization, these buildings, these if you look at some of the cathedrals built, like, it doesn't make sense, that kind of workmanship. It doesn't make sense. Some of these ancient buildings that are so detailed, like, who built that? And why will we destroy them? And why would we remove bells? Bells that have a high frequency. I mean, a lot of people are asking really smart questions like why, where, who, when. And even some people have gone so far as the 80s was a reset. I don't believe it. I was in the 80s. I was a young woman in the 80s. And trust me, the 80s was shit. We were called the me generation for a reason. We were selfish, we were self-absorbed, and we're all greedy. Greed is good. Gecko in Wall Street. So don't look at the past thinking it was better. We're building a future that's going to be better than we've ever seen in human history, in recorded human history. And even the recorded human history has to be second and third guessed and totally scrutinized and then refuted, because most of the historical content that we believe is true was written by racist 19th century historians, anthropologists, archaeologists, and Egyptologists. So there you go. There you go. 19th century. Darwin walks in, tells us we're from monkeys. Meanwhile, we have Sumerian tablets, which show, and hieroglyphs, and pictograms, and more hieroglyphs, I'm going to call them that, in South America, with people with helmets and lasers and chips. And come on, like, stop. And then we have our own human memory in hypnotherapy sessions and Akashic readings, and our own, self recollection of having incarnations on different planets. My husband, at the age of 10, 1972, was saying he came from the Pleiades. Now, 72, there was no cell phones, no computers, there were no books like this. No one spoke like this in 1972. Everyone was dropping acid, smoking pot, and just acting stupid and getting fucked, okay? So in 1972, he's talking about, I'm from the Pleiades. I don't come from here. Now, if a kid today said in 2002, I'm from the Pleiades, I would say, well, we got so much fucking content in social media, no shit. But no, this is 72. Okay? And that's memory. My origin is not here. I don't belong here. That's recollection of self. To the self. Surrounded by adults saying, oh, that's so cute. Please. So, we also remember ourselves, and we don't need the historians and these PhDs. PhD is great until it's not. PhD is great until people have to say, well, my opinion is, and here are my credentials, and because of these credentials, you have to believe what I say. Fuck you. Fuck your credentials. Stick them right up your wahoo. Because that's not going to make me listen to you at all. There are incredible PhDs who, I'm trying to remember her name, but she is an actual engineer who's done a massive series of shit on Gaia, on fantastic stuff about, with what she knows on a scientific engineering background in esoteric teachings. That's valuable. That's valuable because now we're seeing someone who's been taught the pony show, the three ring circus bullshit. And now she's coming from a place of spirituality and alchemizing what she's learned in 3D and going into various dimensions of understandings and taking it all down to 3D human language so we can understand what she is teaching us. That's fantastic. She's got blonde hair, a long neck, blue eyes. I'm trying to remember her name. I can't remember because I haven't watched her in like a couple years because she was doing these really cool shows. But anyway, she has a PhD. Her background is in engineering, and she's extraordinary. And I think she's done. Hang on, I'm trying to remember. Oh fuck! I wish I could remember. I wish I could. I was in front of my computer. I would tell you her name. But anyway, if you're seriously interested, let me know, and I'll try to remember. Let me see. Can you talk about Aubrey Marcus and his radical monogamy? Oh, fuck. I did multiple, including with a sacred divine feminine and a sacred divine masculine. Multiple. I actually also watched him. He's trying to recover the damage he's done. What he's doing is using Old Testament shit and old ancient, and this is why I mentioned the Polynesians and in some African cultures and so forth, and Arabic cultures, and also Abrahamic teachings of polygyny, right? And so he's taken polygyny and repackaged it as ascension, light code, and destruction of jealousy. But the problem is that he keeps talking about how jealousy is with every ex he's had. Every time an ex, a current girlfriend went with a man while he was claiming polyamory, and I'm open to it. What he did say multiple times, because I've kind of gone and scoured the internet to see where the fuck does this guy come from, and he talked about the fact that he could not handle these women, the women he loved, including Valana with her supposed boyfriend Joshua is his name, and how they were in Burning Man. Like, that's a flex to talk about going to Burning Man, but anyway. And how she wanted to watch the sunset with Joshua in the Playas, and how he went into a massive jealousy, physical sickness. Okay, he talks about that. So he's full of shit, basically. I'm not going to say he's cruel. I'm not going to say he's even self-aware, because he's definitely not. There's another interview with another polyamorous man who's kissing his ass. It's obvious. But they never talked about Mark Gaffney. And Mark Gaffney was defrocked as a rabbi. That's how bad his behavior was with underage girls. And that's who they choose as a guru, not Esther Perel, who wrote the incredible book Mating in Captivity. And her talk about monogamous marriages and cheating. She did a tech talk that blew people's minds across the planet. Blew people's minds about cheating. And why people cheat. And what to do. And that sometimes cheating can actually enforce the marriage and create a brand new marriage on the wreckages of that. Or destroy the marriage. The contract is now done, right? So what he was talking about in the original podcast was absolute self-entitled bullshit. And when he was interviewed by his ex-girlfriend, Caitlin, whatever, however you pronounce her name, who they were in a monogamous relationship, and he broke up with her when he realized he couldn't be monogamous with her. He wanted to fuck other chicks, and he went from one to another. Okay. And so she talks about, in that interview, where I guess she's trying to make himself look good, she talks about how while he made his vow to Valana, his wife, that he would be monogamous, and he was tooting everybody, oh yeah, I'm going to be monogamous. Caitlin, knowing his history, was saying, what are you doing, dude? You're not going to be, yeah, that's not how you're wired. That's not how you're wired. And she knew that he couldn't keep the contract, but but apparently she never said anything to him. So Aubrey Marcus is surrounded by people who say, the story of the emperor has no clothes. I love that story. And no one's saying, dude, you're nude. You're fucking up. You're stepping in dog shit all over the place. You are not ever going to be monogamous. You can't do it because you've never holstered your lingam, your dick. So I did a lot. I started with talking about the destruction of Mary Magdalena and Yeshua was how I started the conversation. And you'll see, so if I were you, I would go with that, start with that. It's a series of lives that I did based on talking about why the sacred masculine and feminine has been a powerful archetypal truth and how it's been destroyed. And the first destruction in the West, I'm going to say in the West and the East, the Middle East, was when they destroyed Mary Magdalena's true power and influence with Yeshua. They were equal. Destroyed Mary Magdalena's true power and influence with Yeshua. They were equals and this and that. So I talked about that. And then I talk about polygyny and its historical influence, and based on the concept that women are shit. I'm sorry, I can't be too diplomatic. There's no other way to say it, okay? And the conversations of the Catholic Church talking about our souls being less than. This goes in, even the Vedic scriptures talk about women who are less. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I remember that distinctly. I read it with my own two fucking eyeballs, so it's not like, I'm coming up with ideas out of my ass. And so this concept of women being this, that, and the other. And so when you watch him, one of the things that I really understood, because I also was listening to a lot of people, mostly women, but a lot of divine masculines responding to his bullshit, repackaging of polyamory as new age ascension and advanced material. Like if you can't do this and you're lower than me, you're not even advanced. And my answer to you, if you can't holster your dick, you're definitely not a master of anything. It's that simple. And tantric sex is and was invented. It's yoga for lovers, and it was invented for a spiritual alignment to take sex to the higher realms. It's teaching us how to have sex the way we have sex in other planets and higher dimensions, to be honest. Okay? And miraculous things will happen when you have mindful tantric sex with a soul bonded person. It can't be some guy you just picked up off the street because he's hot, or some chick. It's got to have all kinds of components. It's got to be like the perfect storm type of situation. But anyway, so a lot of people were unhinged at what he was saying. They were really, and a lot of women who had gone through polyamory were the man, the Buddha bun wearing tattooed dude with the sleeves and the fatty in his mouth saying, dude, I'm going to make love to her, but, you got to get over your jealousy. I mean, that's part of your learning and facilitation, is that you got to learn how to control your jealousy. So for many years, I heard articles and blogs and vlogs of women saying that they would listen to their partner pleasuring another woman, and how they were sitting there with this incredible grief and the destruction of their own ability to give themselves boundaries. What is a boundary to the selves? Fucking pack your shit and go. Jealousy and jealousy can be very toxic and dangerous. We've seen that occur, where people actually harm other people, take people's lives. That's toxic jealousy. That's insane shit. But jealousy in its essence is to say, this is mine. It's an ancient primal thing. Yes, it's primal. And it says, I belong to you, you belong to me. Oh, well, we shouldn't say that. No, but let's stop the bullshit, okay? Because essentially that's what it is. I belong to you, you belong to me. I choose you, you choose me, whatever term you want to use. And I want no one else but you. To the point where we're seeing, to give you an example, of people literally in separation from the love of their life, in celibacy for 3 years, 5 years, fucking 10 years. Good looking, smart people. Lenny Kravitz is a celibate male. If you put Aubrey Marcus next to Lenny Kravitz, who do you think is a divine masculine? Who do you think's harnessing the lingam? Who do you think's mastering their sexual energy? Both of them are rich. Both of them can get laid, left and right. It's not hard. Anybody can get laid. That's not a fucking flex to get laid. What's a flex is to be with the one woman or the one man and meeting a soul-connected person who you're sexually interested in. Yes, you are. There's a spark of sexuality. And you've been with the love of your life for 10 years or whatever. And for a minute, you're like shocked. Maybe you had a fight. Maybe there's a shift in the ability to walk together, right? In step. And here comes this person who now turns your head. Something you never thought would happen. And this is when the mastery starts happening. This is when you realize, wait, hang on. I have a soul connection with this person. I know that already. And I'm really dynamically sexually attracted to them. Okay. But do I fuck them? A dynamically centered person would go, what is this past connection? What am I supposed to learn from this? Why is the lure of this physical presence making me think about cheating? What should I do? Go to a hypnotherapist and see if you can have past lives to find out who this person was in past lives. Find out what you need to learn. Why is this person in your field of vision? Go into hypnotherapy. Not ketamine, not acid, not bullshit, fucking hypnotherapy. And do a number of sessions asking your soul, show me why this person's here. Why am I interested in this person? Why do I want to cheat on my partner, who I love? What is going on? And you might find that you've got unfinished karma and you've been given the opportunity. And of course, if you weren't sexually attracted to them, you wouldn't fucking pay attention. Hello. Not to mention, if they are a soul-connected being, you've had sex with them in multiple incarnations. Hello. But what is it in this particular timeline? Why are they walking into your field of vision now? And before you fuck them, I would say, go find out what the hell it is. Don't just fuck them. And what Aubrey Marcus is doing is just fucking. He's fucking with no fucking self-understanding, he's not analyzing himself. He's not, like Caitlyn already knew in the interview when you watch it, she already knew that he was never going to be monogamous. Why didn't she speak up? Would be the question. If you're really the best friend on the whole planet, I would hope my friends would say, Tony, you're fucking up. I would hope to God they would say, Tony, I know you're not asking me for my advice, but here's my take on you fucking up. I would want that. It might piss me off. Don't get me wrong. I'm having the human experience. It might, and that's not an excuse. That's a truth. I have an ego. Hello. But I would have to sit with it. I would probably consult with my son and say, am I really? And he'd probably say, yeah, you are. Really? Okay, well, let me sit with that. And then I'd have to sit with that. I'd have to roll with that in the mud. It probably would be painful for me to come to the realization that, yeah, Tony, you're really fucking up on this point. But that's the whole thing. That's the whole journey. And he's not doing that. And Caitlyn should have said something. She did not say it. Towards the end of their interview, their podcast, you see her saying that. And guess what? She's in a monogamous relationship, and she's engaged to be married. So the reason why people were unhinged is because he told Villana, who was absolutely a monogamous chick. She's totally a monogamous woman. Hardwired to the core. And one of the things she kept saying in multiple interviews, if you go 3 years back, and by the way, when you look at her 3 years back, she looks like she's 27. Today, she looks like a good-looking woman in her late 30s, early 40s. He aged her. He's aged her. This has aged her. Okay? All right. And you realize that he said to her, I will be monogamous. I'm making the choice for you. I love you that much. And then suddenly they started bringing in people in their bed. And why do women do that? Women do it all the time. Why? Because they figure, well, at least I get to decide who's in our bed. At least I get to, I don't think they consciously feel that way on all aspects, but I feel that someone will go, well, at least I know who's in our bed. One, at least I get to control that because I'm present. At least, right? And then she kept saying my edges, in other words, she was moving her boundaries. She was moving her fence of what she was. Well, and what we saw during the podcast with Mark Gaffney, that piece of shit, and these two women, Alana, who looks like deer in the headlights. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be kind about that because she knows what she walked into. And what's his name? Aubrey is Villana, all of us as women, and some divine masculine saw a woman literally fucking imploding. And gaslighting herself actively, and saw a woman literally fucking imploding. And gaslighting herself actively, and being gaslit by the three motherfuckers sitting at that table. And that's what I'm going to call them. That's how I see them. And so that's why the world, like in the New Age community, lost their shit. lost their shit because they were like, you piece of shit. You knew that she was monogamous. You knew from the beginning she was rejecting you. You were platonic friends. And this is what you did to that woman. And what we saw as women, particularly as women, it was very visceral for us because we've all heard our story. We've all had girlfriends, clients. We know the story. We know it front and center of that the polyamorous offer that men do. You know, these new age men, these little gurus. And it's a shit show. And it has made women harm themselves. Some women have taken, in fact, they have been celibate not out of healthiness, but out of absolute pure harm and being in therapy for fucking decades over that shit. So when we saw it go down, we were like, oh, fuck off. And then of course, if you want to watch the interview of Mark Gaffney with Dr. Phil, I hate Dr. Phil, don't get me wrong, but holy shit, he's got him over the fire. So this is all things, but what's interesting to me is that Aubrey Marcus could have hired Esther Perel. Esther Perel would have been the perfect guru, mentor. Why not go with Esther Perel or someone of that ilk? And why not a woman? Instead of someone hammering at the Abrahamic philosophy, you know, and treating it like it's brand new when it's ancient toxic polygamy turned into something in the new age community that's toxic as fuck. If it's a duck, it's still a duck. As like my friend Water Bear Medicine said, you can't put lipstick on a pig and think it's now more attractive, which I think is a funny line. But that's what's happening. And so what's interesting is all of the shit, all the crap is literally rising to the surface. And we are like trying to deal with, you know, for some of you, and not for me, because I never followed this man anyway, Aubrey Marcus, never. But my point to you is for many people who did follow him, and for many, he was the poster child of bad boy gone good, right? Because he went from being a polyamorous playboy to this. And the other thing that made people lose their shit is that he was still selling package classes on their divine love while they were going through this. They were going through this while selling monogamous-based centered classes. And that's lying by omission. So, but you'll have a lot more information if you go to my YouTube channel. Follow me there. And like Jennifer said, I went down the rabbit hole on that because I saw this. I even went down the rabbit hole of self-analyzing if polyamory was good for me, to be honest. And I studied various couples. And I mentioned those couples, by the way. I mentioned the people in my videos so that you can actually go check it out yourself. Like and I would say to you that polyamory, and what we're finding out is polyamory gets you to dilute your shit through 5 or 6 couples, 5 or 6 people, or couples if you're swinging. And so that means that you never get to sit with your shit with one person. And why? Because, well, when you're in polyamorous, it's all about fun. It's all about joy. It's all about, let's just, I'm sure it's about jealousy and this and that comes up, but, you can move on. You can decouple, as they say. There's a lot of terms that we are using in the spiritual community that is it's such bullshit. Decoupling, the constellation of our relationship. It's like, shut the fuck up. Just shut up. It's like, just use words that mean words. And again, I go back to George Carlin when I say that. George Carlin realized what was happening in the American language and how we were being lobotomized very subtly through the change and shifts of the way we use language or words, specific words, in our daily expression. And social media has added a further dilution and editorialism of our ability to communicate clearly. We have to use code words like grape and unaliven instead of fucking real words that really evoke, holy shit, that's traumatic. So I'm going to go, but there's going to be a part 1 and a part 2. You'll see the same image. And I apologize for us losing the live for a minute. Those are my checks, actually. Anyway, thank you, Jennifer. And any questions or comments before I go? Thank you for being here. My phone's dying anyway, and I got so much things to do, but I wanted to, what should have been a 20-minute live turned into damn near 2 hours. So I'm going to let you go. I hope this helped. Again, follow me on YouTube at Sacred Intimacy Tarot. It's on my profile page, and I love you all, and please love yourself and know that you are part of the evolution of this planet. Every single one of you is massively important. None of you are without merit. None of you are without power to shift this planet from 3D into 5D. Every single one of you is key to this great, great evolution into 5D. Thank you, Star. It was great. I'm glad that you were here. Okay, so if you miss any of it, it'll be on YouTube tonight. And again, namaste, be well. Much love on your journey.